So I would like to note that I've taken the opportunity of the postponement of the workshop to change the title, the abstract, as well as some of the content of this talk. And the reason for the update is that the topic that I originally submitted has become part of a larger project. I would also like to note that the work that I will present here is joint work with Sally Tagliamonte, who, as you know, will give a keynote talk later this afternoon, though I'm responsible for the talk's content. In this talk, I will address syntactic change in progress from the particular perspective of the loss of grammatical dialect features. So dialect landscapes have significantly changed over the course of the past century as a result of wide-ranging social and economic developments. There has been widespread attrition of traditional dialect features, and this has also affected the grammatical level. Despite its scope in the variationist tradition, there have been relatively few studies of the attrition process in action through apparent time studies of speech communities. As David Britton has noted, much more research has been interested in the distribution and spread of linguistic innovations rather than the obsolescence of traditional local structures. However, Schilling-Estes and Wolfram have argued that attriting dialects may reveal forms that are not found in more mainstream varieties, and that these structures need to be documented in order to provide a full representation of possible linguistic features and diversity within language. Further, they have shown that the demise of a form need not necessarily proceed in the same way via what they call dissipation, that is drastic erosion or simple loss, but may take different paths in different communities. In this way, the examination of obsolescing forms in moribund dialects may contribute to our understanding of the processes of language recession in particular, and language variation and change more generally. And as this workshop aims to stimulate dialogue in theorizing between three traditions of work on syntactic change, I would be interested to learn about the perspective of historical linguistics and theoretically informed research regarding roots of grammatical loss. So we have been investigating such receding grammatical dialect features in English, and I will present two of them as case studies today. The first is what we have called a double demonstrative construction and abbreviate as DDEMO NP. So the data in one are from the Canadian Ontario Dialects Project that Sally Tagliamonte will present in her keynote talk. Double demonstratives consist of a demonstrative determiner, a spatial adverb here or there, and a noun, as in 1a, I was cooking a bun shop and this here fox was in the window, and in 1b, were you ever in that there side road to Harris Lake? The names in parentheses are pseudonyms followed by the speaker's age at the time they were interviewed. The second case study is a zero article with bare, definite, singular count nouns. By using the term zero article, we do not yet aim to make any claims as to whether there might be some underlying, syntactically underlying article, or whether DP structure may be present or absent. We just mean to say no overt article for the moment. So the data in two are from the UK York English corpus that Sally Tagliamonte also built in the late 1990s. So for example, in 2A, they used to follow river, I think did bombers. And in 2B, the station got badly damaged and station got fire. Now, of course, Standard English also has a zero article. However, its use in Standard English is circumscribed to a more confined set of nouns. As we have proper nouns, names, as in John is brave, for example, non-count nouns, as in green tea is healthy, generic or kind denoting plural nouns, as in firefighters are brave, and nouns naming social and geographical places, as for example, they got married in church. But Standard English typically does not allow a definite singular count noun without an article. To provide some backdrop to the two grammatical dialect features under consideration, previous reports on double demonstratives and the zero article in English. So I know that it's where the double demonstrative is concerned, it's different in other languages, but in English, there have been relatively few and scattered, and many of them are based on a couple of speakers or not on real live data. So double demonstratives have been reported for a few locations in the north of England, East Anglia, and Appalachia. The zero article, so again with definite singular cow nouns, has been reported for some locations in Northern England and also recently in Maltese English. In addition to this, we've asked colleagues holding corpora to search their corpus for double demonstratives, and these searches have generated around 10 to 20 tokens, each from the Fens in Southeast England, North Carolina, and in North Carolina, these were all from the same speaker, the Gulf states of the United States, and the Middle Rockies, where 3 speakers were responsible for the majority of the tokens. So this paucity of documentation already suggests that double demonstratives and the zero article either were never frequent or may long cease to be frequent. So we examined double demonstratives in the Ontario Dialects Project corpus. I don't want to say much about this corpus because the project is really Sally Tallimonte's thing to present in her keynote talk, only that it currently contains approximately 11 million words and comprises interviews with individuals born between the late 1800s and early 2001s from 20 communities in Ontario, Canada. We also examined both the double demonstratives and the zero article in the York English corpus of around 1.2 million words, which includes people born and raised in the city of York who were between the ages of 17 and 92 at the time of data collection. We coded the data for social factors based on the nature of the individuals in the sample, including sex, 3 to 4 age groupings, young, middle, old, and for the zero article, there was also an even older age group, education up to or beyond 16 years of age, and occupation, being a student or having a white or blue collar job. We also tested for grammatical factors that we extrapolated from the existing literature on demonstratives and definite articles and gauged to be possible determinants of the use of the 2 forms. For the double demonstratives, we explored pragmatic function of the double demonstrative, such as situational use, discourse anaphoric use, recognitional use, and the indefinite this use. In the situational use in 3a, so again, we have, were you ever in that there side road to Harris Lake? The referent of the noun is physically present in the immediate surroundings or in the wider situation. In the discourse anaphoric use in 3b, well, that's Connor Fable, he was the clerk, and this year Connor Fable was going to take the boat. The referent of the noun is retrieved and established from the preceding discourse, while the recognitional used in 3c, so here we're talking about Princess Diana. So recognitional use activates a referent that is familiar to the hearer from shared knowledge or experience. So remember reading the story about this year Princess Diana person. And finally, the indefinite this use in 3d. This appears a somewhat unexpected use for demonstrative because similar to the indefinite article, indefinite this introduces a new referent that may become a central topic in the ensuing discourse or in order to set the scene. So for example, again, I was cooking a bunch up and this year fox was in the window and then the fox is continued to be talked about. Indefinite this use only applies to the demonstrative item this and is known to be a Northern American development and of relatively recent origin. The earliest citation of indefinite this in the Oxford English Dictionary is for a single demonstrative determiner, so not for the double, but for single this, and dates from 1900 to 1922. In addition to pragmatic function, we tested for grammatical function and animacy of the noun. For the zero article, we explored first type of noun. This factor has to do with the fact that historically English had a greater use of zero articles, as the historical linguists, of course, know. In the course of the history of English, zero articles were supplanted by the emergence and expansion of the overt definite and indefinite articles. The current use of the zero article in standard English is a remainder of this development. Historical linguists like Jespersen have reported that with some nouns, historical attestations of zero endured relatively long, So, for example, with names of buildings like in 4A, Railway Museum. There's so much to do in Railway Museum. Accordingly, for the factor type of noun, we distinguish between such what we called historical nouns on the one hand, and on the other, common nouns, which have not been historically associated with the zero article in this way. For example, in 4B, door, she said, they painted door. Further, we coded for grammatical function and degree of modification of the noun, so to what extent the noun was modified by an adjective and so on. And finally, because determiners are key indicators of referential information in a discourse, we considered nouns in their discourse context and coded for information status following Prince's taxonomy of given new information. For example, in 5A, the noun station is discourse old, hero old. Yeah, so again, the station got badly damaged, the station has been mentioned, and station got fire. While in 5B, the referent of the noun war, referring to the Second World War, and it came to pass before war finished, is hero old by being unique or from shared speaker hero knowledge, and was in that particular context discourse new. As for the results, I will first present the overall and social distribution of the double demonstrative. And the use of the double demonstrative, again in English, is rare. So after having removed all irrelevant tokens, we found just 16 and 107 tokens in the entire York English corpus and ODP database, respectively. Further, in the ODP, 68 tokens are in a single community, Parry Sound. So for this reason, we focus on this one Parry Sound community. Turning to social factors, in the York English corpus, half of the tokens came from one 87-year-old male individual. And in the ODP, we found that virtually only men from over 71 years of age use double demonstrative. So in Parry Sounds, they were all men, in fact. So the rarity of double demonstratives across English varieties then, in combination with this near complete absence in the middle, youngest and female speakers, in the York English and Ontario data seems to suggest that in English, the double demonstrative is an obsolescing form that is in its last stages. So moving on to the overall and social distribution of the zero article. The zero article is also rare. So in previous work, Talimonte and Rode had found that of all definite nouns in the York English corpus, the number of zero articles is no more than 3%. Because of this rarity, we chose an alternative sampling procedure and selected for analysis 18 nouns that were among the most frequently occurring nouns in the York English data. In this way, again, after having removed irrelevant tokens, we ended up with 225 zero forms as a proportion of 1,335 definite singular count nouns, which amounts to 16%. Regarding the social distribution in the female speakers specifically, we found that rates of zero dropped significantly from the oldest 75 plus generation to the other age groups, from 23% to between 7 and 9%. In the variantist apparent time construct, a trajectory of this kind, whereby a variant gradually recedes from the oldest to the youngest individual, is again suggestive of ongoing obsolescence of an older form. The grammatical results for the double demonstratives were as follows. So in each community in the ODP, including Parry Sounds, the majority form of the double demonstrative is this here, 65% overall. Because of the association with indefinite this usage, so this has this specific indefinite this usage, we subsequently extracted from the Parry Sound data tokens of the single demonstrative determiner this, which we abbreviate as demo dat. Yeah, so for example, this fox rather than this here fox. And we coded the demonstrative determiner this for the same social and grammatical factors as we had done for the double demonstratives. We then restricted in the Parry Sound data double demonstrative tokens to this here. and took the proportion of these double this here demonstratives from the total number of demonstrative tokens with this, both single and double. And we found that of all of the pragmatic functions, double demonstratives showed the most indefinite this use, 10%, rather than recognitional use, 4%, and discourse, anaphoric, and situational use with around a mere 1%. So having established that double demonstratives in Parry sound are most frequently used in the indefinite this function, we then looked into the grammatical development of indefinite this in the community. To this end, we first compared in the Parry sound speakers, speakers who are users of the double demonstrative construction. So they were all in the oldest age groups. And we compared for those speakers using double demonstratives in the oldest age groups, the use of indefinite this in double demonstratives versus demonstrative determiners. So this here, fox versus this fox. In these old users of double demonstratives, we found a higher usage of indefinite this in double demonstratives as compared to demonstrative determiners. A proportion of 32 from 68 tokens, so around 47%, versus a proportion of 74 from 577 tokens, around 13%. And finally, in the figure, we took the use of indefinite this as a proportion of all simple and double demonstratives in the Parry sound data. The result shows that while double demonstratives are obsolescing and confined to the oldest speakers, there is a trend in the youngest Parry sound generation at the right-hand side of the figure towards more indefinite this in demonstrative determiners. That is, what might have happened is that the middle and the younger generations no longer use double demonstratives, but have retained its indefinite this use in demonstrative determiners. Then the grammatical results for the zero article. When discussing the distributional analysis, I already mentioned that female speakers appear to be dropping the zero article. And my colleague Sally Talimonte subsequently carried out a mixed effects logistic regression analysis using the LMAA4 package in R. And this returned a number of results worth mentioning, but the one I wanted to highlight here is that among the male speakers, so highlighted in red, information status exerted the strongest effect on the zero article. Namely, the zero article is disfavored when the referent of the noun is discourse old, hero old, but favored when the referent is discourse new, hero old, by being unique or shared experience or knowledge between the speaker and the hearer. So recall the example in 5b, and it came to pass before war finished, where war is known to refer to the Second World War. So, okay, whilst it is a receding form, what is there in store for the English double demonstrative? So we already pointed out that we think that the double demonstrative may provide an alternative source for the current indefinite this use with single demonstrative determiners. So this would mean that identifying obsolescing forms and investigating their nature could be essential for understanding the root of change of not only receding features, but innovating features as well. Further, English double demonstratives in the indefinite this use might further inform the already rich, theoretically informed body of work on the structure of double demonstratives in other languages. So if there are any syntacticians out there, I wonder if they could help me figure out the relation between a double demonstrative like this here, fox, and a construction like this fox here. If and how the one may have derived from the other, and how come that the double would be associated with the indefinite this use. Double demonstratives may also provide support for the view that doubling structures may occur separately from grammaticalization, as well as the idea that some grammatical cycles are pragmatic in nature. The zero article might be relevant to Greenberg's grammatical trajectory of the definite article, in which the domain of the definite article expands at the cost of zero. So English is currently in stage 2, and in this stage, zero has lost ground to such an extent that its use has reduced to proper names, as I already mentioned, and generic kind denoting or non-count nouns. So Jespersen has characterized these uses as familiarity so complete that no article is needed, for proper names and complete unfamiliarity for generic, kind denoting and non-count nouns. So does the zero article with discourse new, hero, old nouns in York English perhaps show some kind of substage? It seems to us that discourse new, hero, old use has a sense close to proper names. The referent of the noun can be identified because it's unique or known by the speaker and the hearer. So on a final discussion note, we think that we are lucky to have managed to document these two grammatical features at all. So in fact, we would not have been able to document the double demonstrative in this way if it had not been for the local historian John McPhee, who made available legacy recordings of Parry Sound speakers that he had collected. Further, we concur with Schilling, Estes and Wolfram that preceding forms may not simply fade away and disappear from the grammar. So rather, scrutinizing obsolescing forms can expose and differentiate trajectories of loss. Thus far, studies of dialect obsolescence have identified at least 3 patterns. So one, in again, this dissipation model, drastic erosion or simple loss. Second, a concentration model where, in the face of social pressure from a mainstream variety, speakers hang on to their dialect and increase the use of particular features of this dialect. Schilling, Estes and Wolfram observed this model on Smith Island, an island off the coast on the southeast of the United States. A third pattern that has been identified is a variant of this concentration model, whereby speakers continue to use an obsolescing dialect form in a context where it was historically favored. This third pattern has been observed by Jankowski and Tagliamonte for the grammatical feature of verbal S in the English dialect spoken in the Canadian Ottawa Valley. And to this typology, we might add, for the case of double demonstrative, specialization to innovative indefinite disuses before passing it down to another form, the demonstrative determiner. And for the case of the zero article, retirement to some substage in a grammatical development. And this typology might complement existing theories of alternatives to the loss of grammatical features. So these are the references to the talk and also some acknowledgements. Thank you.